and welcome to our weekly Facebook Live update for COVID and its impacts and any specific HR developments that have occurred in the last week that we need regionally based business, their managers and staff to know about. So welcome to those who are familiar participants with us. And for those who are joining for the first time or who don't know me, my name is Bronwyn Pearson. I'm from Pinnacle People Solutions, and as I said, a very warm welcome to our weekly Facebook Live update. So our company, Pinnacle People Solutions, provides human resource services and solutions to regionally based small to medium-sized enterprises and not-for-profit organisations. We are here to help you and your business, not only through these challenging COVID-19 times, but all the time. So please ask any questions that you might have as we go along, and I'll do my best to answer those. Outside of this, you can contact me or my fantastic team anytime. Obviously, we're up here in Facebook. You can contact us via Facebook, but you can also reach out, give us a call, or email us, get in touch with us via our website. Details are going to be provided in the comments. And good morning to those who've already joined us this morning. It's great to have you along. So, over the time since the commencement of this terrible pandemic, we had been live just about every weekday morning at 9:15 for updates, with updates for business owners and operators. The pandemic isn't over, clearly, and it won't be for some time. But as we learn to live with the crisis, we are all trying to cope with developments as they happen each day, and to find new normals, so to speak. And our weekly COVID Live update on a Monday morning is our contribution to you and to our regionally based businesses, to our regional communities who are doing it so tough at this point in time. In particular, we've had the triple whammy: drought, bushfires, and now COVID, and it's really having a significant impact. And my heart goes out, as does my team's, for all of those who are impacted. Our colleagues and friends and family in Victoria, which we're going to cover in a moment. These are really challenging times, and I'd encourage you, if you're a business owner or manager, to reach out, have a conversation, chew the fat. No cost whatsoever to you to do that, and reach out where and when you need to get whatever support and assistance that you need, or even just to have a chat. So let's move in then to breaking news and any big changes since last Monday, since our last live update. Just a reminder at the outset, I know I bang on about grant opportunities, but really is the time to be seeing what you can be getting access to, and getting access to everything and anything that is your business is eligible for. So back on the 1st of July, so just over a month ago, the New South Wales government launched a grant intended to assist businesses to reopen from restrictions imposed as a result of the pandemic. And the grant is for safely reopening or upscaling operations. Expenses that you could potentially cover if you were successful in getting this grant are those associated with marketing, communications and advertising, staff training, business advice and continuity, additional cleaning services, equipment, fit-out costs associated with social distancing and digital solutions, etc. Your eligible expenses can only be purchased from the 1st of July, and the grant applies where no other support is available. Applications close on the 16th of August, so that's in 13 days' time. So we will put up a link for you to what is happening there. so that you're able to get access to that information. So, all right, so let's move on then to a general update since last Monday, and the most recent going backwards, of course, is that yesterday a state of disaster was declared by the Premier in Victoria, with a curfew in place in Melbourne from 8 o'clock last night until 5 a.m. this morning, and that is going to be a daily curfew that will be in place. And movement has been restricted to within 5 kilometres from home under stage 4 restrictions, which have been introduced to metropolitan Melbourne. Regional areas will move to stage 3 restrictions, and we will give you more details on that in just a moment. The Premier, Daniel Andrews, yesterday also foreshadowed that he will be outlining stage 4 lockdown implications for businesses today. So we will keep you posted on that. We may well do a special broadcast perhaps tomorrow morning on what the business implications are for these lockdowns. Yesterday, the Premier was concerned to make it clear on what the implications were for the people, for citizens. Today, he'll be going further to discuss the implications for business. So we will keep you posted as we know about that. In terms of New South Wales, masks are now recommended in supermarkets, on public transport and at churches. We in New South Wales recorded 12 new cases yesterday. In addition to that recommendation from the Premier Gladys Berejiklian in terms of mask wearing, the Chief New South Wales Medical Officer Dr. Chant has recommended that people wear face masks made from 3 layers of breathable fabric to ensure adequate protection, and to wash reusable masks after each use or at least daily. The Premier for New South Wales has said that the next few weeks of New South Wales's coronavirus response is make or break. The Industrial Relations Minister, Federal Industrial Relations Minister, Christian Porter, has said that developing a federal paid pandemic leave scheme is now a high priority in light of Victoria's coronavirus crisis, and we will keep you informed about that. Certainly that has been extended to those in aged care, and we have previously reported on that, but we will give you an update on that, developing in terms of paid pandemic leave across industries as we go through. The Victorians have, as of this morning, spent their first night under the new restrictions in response to that state's second wave. For 6 weeks until the 13th of September, Melbourne will be under an 8 p.m. curfew, and regional Victoria will be moving to stage 3 restrictions. Other states are also on high alert this morning after recording additional cases over the weekend. South Australia recorded 2 new cases yesterday, including a teenager who'd recently returned from Victoria, which prompted 2 school closures. Okay, so let's have a bit of a deep dive then into the changes in Victoria. And these changes were prefaced by the Victorian Premier on the basis that, obviously there's a desire on the part of Victorians as well as Australians more broadly to be able to go back to some semblance of normal, certainly in Victoria, who have been under stricter lockdowns. What he stated yesterday was that the health experts are telling us that the measures they've introduced in terms of stage 3 lockdowns are working, but not working fast enough, and that the current rate of community transmission, being those mystery cases that can't be traced back to work or home, is far too high, and that it might actually take some months, many months perhaps, for the cases and deaths associated to drop, and that's months more of current lockdown restrictions, and consequently numbers still in the 300, 400, 500 cases a day, and more, hospitalisations, more deaths, etc. The Victorian Premier has said that he is not prepared to do that, and that's what has brought about the declaration of the state of disaster, which they also had in place during the bushfires, and essentially what this will do is give police additional powers to make sure that people are complying with public health directions, and move to what are being called stage 4 restrictions, which will include stronger rules to limit the movement of people and therefore the spread of the virus, is what the intention is. That commenced with a curfew from last night from 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. this morning, which began last night and will be in place every night. The only reasons to leave home during any curfew hours would be for work, medical care and caregiving. There will be exemptions for partners who live apart and for work as required. The night network in terms of public transport will be suspended, and public transport services will be reduced in Victoria during curfew hours. And that will also allow them to redeploy public service officers into enforcement efforts. New time, distance and gathering limits are also going to apply for exercise and shopping. Exercise is to be limited to a maximum of 1 hour per day and no more than 5 kilometres from your home in Victoria, in Greater Melbourne. Group size will be limited to a maximum of 2, you and one other person, whether you live with them or not. Shopping will be limited to 1 person per household per day. And again, the 5 kilometre rule will apply. If your closest supermarket, however, is further than 5 kilometres, you can still shop there. And if you're a parent with little ones, you can still take them with you when you go for a walk. And these distance gathering and time limits won't apply for work, medical care or for compassionate reasons. Study at TAFE and University must be done remotely. And from Wednesday at midnight, weddings in Melbourne cannot occur. Face coverings will continue to be compulsory, and schools will be returning to remote and flexible learning across all year levels. And students who are currently attending on site, which includes senior students and those in specialist schools, will go to school on Monday, that's today, have a pupil-free day on Tuesday, that being tomorrow, and will be learning from home from Wednesday. On-site supervision at schools and education will be offered, but its access will be tightened and it will only be available for students who really need it. And that means children whose parents are permitted workers and vulnerable kids who can't learn from home. From Thursday, these same rules will apply to Melbourne's kinder and early childhood education services. The changes will be in place for at least the next 6 weeks, until Sunday the 13th of September in Victoria. Those restrictions will be constantly reviewed and realigned, the restrictions realigned in line with the advice of health experts. If they can change things earlier in Victoria, they will. And they also recognise that workplaces continue to be the site of many of the cases. Yesterday's announcements by the Victorian Premier are around the changes to how Victorians will live. Today, he's going to have more to say about the way Victorians will need to work over this 6-week period. That is what is happening. So just to summarise, a nightly curfew is now in place in Greater Melbourne from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. with only exemptions for work, caregiving, medical and compassionate reasons permitted. Exercise is to a maximum of 1 hour daily within 5 kilometres of your home with one other person only, no family or share house groups. There is an exemption for dependent children. Only 1 person per household per day within 5 kilometres or to the closest supermarket is what is the restriction for shopping. There is an exemption for caregiving or assisting the elderly. Education, Monday today is per the current program. Tomorrow is a pupil-free day. Wednesday, all classes will return to remote learning statewide, not just metropolitan Melbourne. The new restrictions in Melbourne and in regional Victoria are bringing changes to school and childcare. The rules are the same in regional Victoria, although it is expected that more students will be attending school in person due to more industries being allowed to remain open in regional Victoria and thus more parents being at work. There will be more information provided about which industries will be shut or detrimentally affected in terms of what's going to happen in Victoria today. We will keep you informed about that. Childcare will be closed from Thursday. There will be an exemption for vulnerable children and children of permitted workers. And it's advised that those with kids in childcare and kinder in Victoria seek advice from their childcare centre this morning. In terms of taxis and Ubers, the Premier has announced that mandatory masks, mandatory backseat, and they'll be doing further work around whether there are passenger limits. So we expect to hear more in terms of taxis and Ubers, but in the meantime, wearing a mask is mandatory, and it's mandatory for you to sit in the back seat. In terms of intimate partners, there will be an exemption from the 5 kilometre limit for people to visit their intimate partners. So those arrangements in relationship to intimate partners remain unchanged, and the arrangements in relation to shared custody remain unchanged. Things like the 5 kilometre rule and reasons to leave your home don't apply in both those circumstances. There will be restricted overnight train services and returns to the pre-night network program. Some protective service officers will be deployed from night network to enforcement. In terms of restaurants and cafes, takeaway and home delivery will be allowed subject to conditions. Bottle shops will remain open. Weddings will be banned from Thursday. There are some exemptions for compassionate reasons. Funerals, the rules on funerals will remain unchanged. Organised sport, recreation, golf and fishing are all banned. There will be more detail today on restrictions on businesses, and the Premier will be making more statements today about the types of restrictions within the economy, types of changes to the way that Victorians will work, and the types of support they'll provide to those affected. Regional Victoria will move to stage 3 restrictions from Thursday, and the Mitchell Shire remains on current stage 3 restrictions also. The Premier of Victoria also said yesterday that he was in continuing conversations with the Prime Minister, particularly around the kinds of support that Victorian businesses might need further to the announcements he'll be making today. The Federal Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, has also said that the government is upwardly revising the number of Victorians it expects to remain on JobKeeper payments beyond September in light of Melbourne's stage 4 lockdown. And on speaking this morning on a breakfast radio, the Treasurer said that the federal government was expecting about 3/4 of the 975,000 Victorians currently on the JobKeeper subsidy would continue to need support. And he also added that the government was open to keeping JobKeeper at its current $1,500 a fortnight level for certain affected industries or areas. So that is interesting to note, and we'll keep you informed about that. So that is unfortunately the circumstances for our Victorian colleagues, friends and family. If you know of businesses in regional Victoria that may benefit from a no obligation conversation about what's happening for them, particularly after the Premier gives announcements today as to what the further restrictions are going to mean for business in Victoria, don't hesitate to get them to give us a call. We'd be very happy to help. Changes in New South Wales. New South Wales recommends, this is not yet mandatory, but New South Wales Health currently recommends that you wear a mask in New South Wales where you are indoors where physical distancing is hard to maintain. Now that might be, places like that might be in public transport or in supermarkets. Are there examples that have been given, but you may actually be working in workplaces where 1.5 metres social distancing is very hard to do, in which case it would be advised to wear masks there also. in any indoor settings with a higher risk of transmission. So that might be hospitality staff working at restaurants, pubs and clubs, or anyone attending places of worship. And again, we're all reminded if we're sick and going for care or to get tested. There is a particular notice in the last yesterday evening for the Hunter, New England region. There's a health alert, and this was given last night. New South Wales Health has issued an alert for 2 Newcastle area pubs after a person who subsequently tested positive to coronavirus visited the area from Sydney. If you were at either the Hotel Jesmond on the 29th of July between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m, or Walls End Diggers on the 30th of July between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m, you should self-isolate immediately for 14 days and get tested regardless of whether you have symptoms. If your test is returned negative and you subsequently develop symptoms, you should be retested. Just a reminder, New South Wales Health has issued an alert for 2 Newcastle pubs. They were the Hotel Jesmond, if you were there on the 29th of July between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m, or the Walls End Diggers on July the 30th between 7:30 and 9:30, you should self-isolate immediately for 14 days and get tested regardless of whether you have symptoms. This morning on Breakfast Radio, our Federal Treasurer has indicated that there will be major updates to the economic forecast he presented last month in light of Victoria's extended and intensified shutdown. He's saying that Treasury will rerun the numbers and that it will certainly, the deficit will be higher than the $3.3 billion number that they announced a week ago. And on the topic of paid pandemic leave, which the Attorney General Christian Porter has indicated will be a high priority given what's happening in Melbourne, the Treasurer has cited that some Victorian government and large employers have already got schemes in place. Of course, that's not necessarily going to be the case for all, and certainly not necessarily for small to mediums and not-for-profit organisations. The other announcement that has come forward late yesterday by the Federal Health Minister, Greg Hunt, and a very welcome announcement, is that the Australian Government will provide 10 additional Medicare subsidised psychological therapy sessions for people subjected to further restrictions in areas impacted by the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Greg Hunt has said that mental health and suicide prevention remains one of the government's highest priorities, and that the government recognises the mental health impact that COVID-19 is having on individuals and communities, particularly those in areas such as Victoria, where regrettable but necessary measures are needed to stop the spread of the virus. The additional Medicare subsidised sessions will allow people in eligible areas who have used their 10 sessions to continue to receive mental health care from their psychologist, psychiatrist, GP, or other eligible allied health worker. The new items will apply to people subject to public health orders restricting their movement within the state or territory, issued at any time from the 1st of July to this year to the 31st of March 2021, and to people who are required to isolate or quarantine under public health orders. Patients will be required to have a mental health treatment plan and a review with their GP to access the additional sessions. The measure will commence this Friday, the 7th of August, and will be available until the 31st of March 2021. So in terms of our weekly COVID-19 update, that is our live up-to-the-minute update. We know that there's going to be further announcements today, particularly from the Premier in Victoria around the impact on businesses of the Stage 4 lockdown restrictions, and we will bring those changes to you as soon as we can. In other HR-related news, a bit closer to home, down the road in Tamworth, the Tamworth Services Club on Marrier Street was fined on Friday last week by Safe Work New South Wales after a compliance blitz which started last Friday. It is understood that the breach was related to non-compliant record keeping, but was not related to any police licensing patrols by Oxley Police or indeed by complaints. Safe Work New South Wales have not yet revealed the exact details surrounding the penalty notice, but we do know that the penalty notice was issued as part of a blitz by Safe Work New South Wales across the New England Northwest and the rest of the state. So please, if you're a business owner in this area, be mindful. The leader also saw inspectors carrying out patrols of several venues on Saturday after checks in Narrabri and also in Gunnedah. So in terms of the Northern Inland region, there are blitzes being carried out at the moment by Safe Work New South Wales. In this blitz, so far, 410 licensed venues and other hospitality businesses were inspected, with 10 pubs, clubs and cafes found to be in breach of public health orders. That includes the Tamworth Services Club last Friday. The fines, worth $50,000 in total, involved inspections from officers with Liquor and Gaming New South Wales, Safe Work New South Wales and New South Wales Fair Trading. So please be aware that that blitz is happening. The other thing that I think it's important to let you know is you may have heard of the terrible accident that occurred in Victoria a couple of months ago that caused the death of 4 police officers who had pulled a speeding Porsche driver over in the emergency lane, and a truck driver ploughed into their vehicles. The truck driver was subsequently charged with 4 counts of culpable driving causing death. Yesterday we were notified that the truck company manager has been charged with manslaughter over those Eastern Freeway truck crash that killed 4 police officers, and that is following police and work health and safety investigations. So I have done sessions recently on your work health and safety obligations. Here is an instance where the truck company manager has been charged with manslaughter over those 4 deaths. The truck driver himself was charged with 4 counts of culpable driving causing death. So the manager has been now charged with manslaughter. I cannot emphasise strongly enough, particularly in the current COVID climate, but in more general terms, how important it is for you to be clear as to your health and safety obligations and the risks to you and to your business of not doing that. So please get in touch if you'd like to discuss your health and safety obligations further. In terms of winding up our broadcast this morning, feel free please to refer any regionally based Victorian businesses to us for a no obligation conversation about how they can respond and plan in these coming 6 weeks of stage 4 restrictions in wider metropolitan Melbourne and stage 3 restrictions in regional Victoria. Make sure you have a COVID safe plan in place, get details of your clients and customers and make sure you're compliant. This Northern Inland region blitz is a reminder to us of what we need to be doing. Review your staffing arrangements now. Make sure that you have appropriate employment contracts, position descriptions and appropriate policy and procedure in place. The current circumstances across the country, obviously most significantly in Victoria, but across the country, are causing great anxiety for business owners and their staff. So please keep communicating with your staff. What we do know is that in the absence of communication, people fill that void with all sorts of assumption. Don't let that happen in your work environment. Be talking to your staff. If you don't know, say, I'm sorry, I don't know, but when I do, I'll let you know. Involve your staff in communication and consultation about how your business is planning for COVID moving forward. Because it's really important to keep those communication lines open, and the situation in New South Wales, of course, remains tenuous. Other states are seeing other cases. Victoria has gone into stage 4 lockdown for metropolitan Melbourne and stage 3 for regional. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination, and we want to be here and able to support you with whatever you need. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've got specific questions about your business or you want us to help you, please reach out and contact us anytime via email, Facebook, website, phone. We're also up in LinkedIn, on YouTube. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday evening for the next in our webinar series, with each instalment being a deep dive into a particular HR or related topic. This Thursday, our consultant psychologist Jessica is back, and she will be addressing the question, how do I cope with another lockdown? Trust me, she is well poised to take us through this, as she's currently in lockdown in Melbourne, in metropolitan Melbourne. So she's facing another 6 weeks now at stage 4 lockdown. So please tell all your colleagues, family and friends, especially those who will be interested in coping and planning strategies for lockdown situations, and tune in at 5:30 this Thursday to spend that time with our consultant psychologist Jessica. In the meantime, please hug the people that you can and wave cheerily at those that you yet can't. Stay safe. Please stay socially distant. Wear a mask in appropriate circumstances, as we've been recommended to do in New South Wales, and which you must do in Victoria. Wash your hands, keep up that great hand hygiene, and practice social and safe distancing in work environments and social environments. And we'll really look forward to seeing you Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Take care.